raising money for Epilepsy Action. As you can see, I've got the t-shirt on. We have made it to Station Road. I did have a little break at the cafe in Latham's of Potter Heigham. That over there is called Station Close, so that's a pretty good clue. The cow may have been tempted by the smell of turnips. There's an old Midland and Great Northern marker outside the house. Good morning everybody, I am Sarah with the trains, and you find me here today on board one of only 2 buses per week that goes from Norwich bus station to Hemsby, because I need to head to Hemsby to pick up where I left off last time in my Walking a Disused Railway Line for Charity series. There are also 2 buses that travel from Hemsby to Norwich bus station per week. So there we have it, one of the 2 services per week that head off from Norwich bus station to Hemsby. In school holidays there are actually 2 other services on a Wednesday that head from Norwich bus station to Hemsby, so it goes up to an almighty 4 services a week during the school holidays. Now though, we're going to head off and have a little walk down to the beach, because I didn't go to the beach last time I was at Hemsby, and I think that's a shame. Now suffice it to say, as it's February and it's the Norfolk coast, I'm not going to be spending a heck of a lot of time here on the beach at Hemsby. I'm really surprised by how many things were open in the village, how many amusements and food outlets. Oh, and the shops as well, because it really is the off season. Also, if I didn't already mention, I was the only person on that bus all the way from Norwich to Hemsby. One thing I want to talk about here is coastal erosion. Coastal erosion is a big deal in Hemsby and this section of the coast. They reckon that Hemsby's lost about 300 metres of coastline since the 1970s, and it's been in the news a lot the last few years. Also, there are a lot of people who've sadly lost their homes, and some homes have been preemptively demolished because there is such a risk of them literally falling into the sea. It's worth pointing out that even for people who do have home insurance, the insurance prices in Hemsby are really rather high, and also there's no guarantee on the insurer paying out in a situation whereby the home has to be demolished or falls into the sea, because even if this is the result of recent storm damage, insurers have been known to deem it to be the result of long-term coastal erosion and therefore not pay out. I must say, I've only been coming to Hemsby since 2014, and even I can notice a vast change in the coastline here. And there have been proposals for some more coastal defences along about, I think it's 3/4 of a mile stretch of the coast. And Great Yarmouth Council would be responsible for that, but unfortunately that's going to cost about £20 million. I think now is a good time to head back up into Hemsby and to head off to our first disused station of the day, which is going to be Great Ormesby. So it has just occurred to me that some people may be tuning in to these videos for the first time, so I just want to explain what I'm doing here. I'm doing part of a fundraiser for the charity Epilepsy Action, and that is to walk 50 miles in February. As part of that, I have decided to walk a disused railway line. So I've done a couple of previous videos, which I'll have to put some links to. If anybody does want to donate to this fundraiser, because Epilepsy Action are a wonderful charity, there's going to be a link in the description below. Epilepsy Action means a lot to me because I do have epilepsy myself, and the resources they provide really help me understand my condition. I have talked about this a little bit in the other videos, and it made me aware of things that I was unaware of, sort of slightly obviously. And one of those things, it's not a nice subject, but it's something called SUDEP, which is sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. Now, this is not common, and when it does happen, it tends to be more in people whose epilepsy is not well controlled. And basically what it means is that somebody sadly passes away either during or soon after a seizure, and there's no other discernible cause of death, like injuries, for example. Now, I'm going to pop a little statistic on the screen about that, and it is really tragic that this does occur, and also so many people are not aware of it. It's also one of several reasons why I don't like it when people make cheap jokes about seizures, because they are not funny. Another reason I don't like people making cheap jokes about epilepsy is because seizures are really just not pleasant. That's a pretty basic one, really. Some of the, the general pain in your muscles that you feel afterwards, after a tonic-clonic seizure, and also the injuries you can sustain is pretty horrible. I have personally lost a tooth. I have also broken my elbow, and well, I lost a couple of pairs of glasses as well, needless to say, including a pair I'd only had for 12 hours. Not to mention the fact that I have also injured other people whilst having seizures. I injured my grandma once because I was laying on the sofa, I wasn't very well at all, and I had a seizure because of that, because I couldn't keep my medication down. And unfortunately, I, during that seizure, fell off the sofa onto her feet and caused really, really bad bruising and pain. Sorry, Grandma. So just to sort of respond to a comment I have had on previous videos about whether my epilepsy is controlled or not, short answer is it's pretty well controlled now. I'm down to sort of 1 or 2 tonic-clonic seizures a year. I do have a few absences and focal seizures, but it's a lot better than when I was in my early 20s and I was having a tonic-clonic seizure every couple of weeks. I am perfectly safe to be heading off doing my railway adventures, and I wouldn't do it if I wasn't safe to. You probably can't see this on camera, but it's just started snowing. We haven't had any snow at all when other parts of the country have been cut off by snow, and now it starts. Are these parsnips? And what appears to be a potato? And a turnip? Oh no, is that 2 really big parsnips stuck together? Or a root vegetable that looks like a tooth? Okay, I'm no vegetable expert, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that these are being grown in this field. Today started out okay weather-wise, but now we're in the midst of some proper delightful East Coast winter weather. Freezing rain and whatever else, sleet. Is it sleet? Is it freezing rain? I don't know. But it's cold. Never underestimate the East Coast wind. We are now picking up the route of the old railway line. So the line would have come down from Hemsby that way. And here we go. Where this embankment thingy, whatever you want to call it, with all the lovely bushes on. This is the old route of the railway line. Looks like we can actually get up there. I just pushed my way through some hawthorn bushes, well, I think they're hawthorns anyway, to get up to the track bed, and this is as far as I can go, unfortunately. There you have it, through those trees, the former Great Ormesby station. Now, as you can see, the former station does still exist, but that is now private residence. The station was opened as just plain old Ormesby by the Yarmouth and Stalham Light Railway in 1877. It was changed to Great Ormesby in 1884. The station here had 2 platforms, as well as sidings, a signal box and cattle pens. As already mentioned, the station building does still exist as a private residence. There was a little halt in Ormesby also called Little Ormesby Halt. It was one of the halts that was opened in 1933 to benefit tourists on the line between Great Yarmouth Beach and Stalham. Now, this one lasted the least amount of time of all those halts. It lasted a grand total of 1 season in 1933, so it closed after less than a year. Now that we've had that bit of history about Great Ormesby Station, we're going to head off to our next stop of the day, which is going to be Scratby Halt. One thing I forgot to mention is that in the garden at the station house, the platforms are still there, still intact, and they actually run along the back of these houses also. Now, in an endeavour to follow the path of the railway line, we're walking over some seriously muddy ground. We are back to the road. Bit of solid ground. Oh, a car park of a recreation centre thingy that we can cut through. Oh, should be young enough and small enough to play on those sort of things again. A simpler time. Oh my goodness, my boots have fallen apart. Oh no, this is going to be a fun rest of the day. Well, there isn't exactly anywhere to buy a new pair of shoes on the way between Ormesby and Scratby, so we're still walking. We are now looking at the location of Scratby Halt. Scratby Halt, as you've probably guessed, was one of the halts that were opened in 1933. This one lasted a lot longer than Little Ormesby. It was opened in 1933, closed in 1939 as a wartime economy measure, reopened when British Railways started in 1948, and then finally closed just 11 years later when the line closed in 1959. Unfortunately, there's not a heck of a lot else to say about Scratby Halt because it was just another of these tiny little stations to serve tourists. So we're going to head off now to California. Yeah, we're going all the way to California for the next station. That's California in Norfolk, not California, USA. As we look over this way, we're looking at the location of California Halt. As you can see, it's now housing. But can you guess the history of the station? Yes, it opened in 1933, it closed in 1939, it reopened in 1948, and then ultimately closed in 1959. It was a very simple halt, like the other halts, and unfortunately, that's pretty much all I can say about it. So let's head on to our next stop of the day, which is going to be Caister Camp Halt. One thing we do have here at California, though, is this old World War II pillbox. As usual, I'm not really sure what type of pillbox it is, but I will look it up when I get home and see if I can work it out. Oh, there is actually a doorway on this side. See if we can see in a bit. Well, we can see through the bars into the little entrance. Then we can't see anything at all. It's almost completely dark. Wouldn't you know it, it started snowing again. What great weather to be wearing a boot that's fallen apart. Walk I'm having right now. I'm having a bracing walk. It's very good for you. It's freezing, but it builds character and made us who we are as a nation. You know, something like that. Well, it's official. I have made it to the site of Caister Camp, Halt. That behind me is Halt Road. So that's a pretty good clue. And this halt opened in 1933, and it was just a simple one-platform halt to serve the holiday camps in the area. It then closed in 1939 as a wartime economy measure, and say it with me, it reopened in 1948 with British Railways and ultimately closed in 1959. Caister Camp Halt was actually very well used, to the extent that it was reconstructed in 1934, just 1 year after opening. As much as I take the mickey about, you know, the short history of these halts, they did serve a really good purpose. They did serve the purpose of, you know, serving the tourist industry in an era where most people did not have cars. So it brought people from, you know, the Midlands and the north to this area of the Norfolk coast, which they may otherwise never have visited. Now though, it's time to head off to our next stop of the day, which is Caister-on-Sea. Just walking to the site of Caister-on-Sea station, and the roads have been coming along, going past. I'm on Eastern Road. There's also a Great Close, Midland Close and Northern Close. Yeah, basically all the streets around here are railway themed because they're built on old railway land. This building says Widow's Home 1836, I think. This widow's home, seen here on the map as an almshouse, was built on land owned by Thomas Close, Lord of the Manor, who donated to provide homes for 2 poor widows in Caister. You are now looking at the location of Caister-on-Sea station. As I mentioned, all that old railway land has become housing now. The station at Caister-on-Sea opened in 1877 as Caister by the Yarmouth and Stalham Light Railway. It was changed to Caister-on-Sea in 1893. The station mainly served tourists along this bit of the coast. It's only a few miles away from Great Yarmouth, the terminus of the line. Caister-on-Sea only had the one platform, and as you can see, there was a station building on this platform. There was also a signal box at the station. The station, as you can imagine, closed in 1959. Right, we are now going to head off to the penultimate stop of the day, which is Newtown Halt. So, as you've probably gathered from the fact that we're walking under this old bridge that used to go over the railway, the old road bridge, we are now walking along the old track bed. Interestingly, with Newtown Halt, although it closed in 1959, a lot of the infrastructure actually stayed in place until the 1960s. But we're not quite at the site of the station yet, so let's keep going. So, in amongst the graffiti on the inside of the bridge, there is actually a train. It's a very nice picture of a locomotive. However, somebody's written something not very family friendly on it, so I can't show it to you. Newtown Halt opened in 1933 and was just a single wooden ground level platform. There was a signal box at the station and manually operated crossing gates. It was closed as a wartime economy measure in 1939 and then reopened with British Railways in 1948. It closed in 1959. One interesting thing about Newtown Halt is that it was only about half a mile away from the terminus station of Yarmouth Beach. Now, I suppose that does really beg the question of why bother, especially as the area was pretty well served by buses anyway. I mean, the station was convenient for the local high school, but as I say, there was road transport for that anyway, and by 1958 only 25 people per week were using Newtown Halt. Looking back up that path we just walked down, as you can see, the site of the halt is now a car park. And just to show how convenient this was for the high school, here's the halt, here's the high school. Now we've explored a little bit the history of Newtown Halt, it is time for us to head off to our final destination of the day, and indeed the terminus of the line at Yarmouth Beach. Well, it looks like we're getting close. Great Northern close. Also Midland close. So my camera frightened the living daylights out of me because I switched it on to record a street sign, as you do, and the screen was just black. Fortunately, I could see through the viewfinder that it was still recording, was still working in that regard, but I think some water has got into it from the rain, sort of semi-inevitably. But hopefully everything goes well and, the screen's working again, I can see myself. So hopefully this is not the end of dear old Cammy. We have made it. We are here at Yarmouth Beach Station. As you can see, we do have some railway tracks here and also some old, I think these are called spandrels. They were what supported the canopies at the station for the shelters. Here we've got the Midland and Great Northern Railway logo and the Eastern and Midland Railway logo. We also have in bricks beach and station. Now I'm going to try and do this bit of history very quickly because I can see the red light on my transmitter for my microphone, which means the battery's running out. The station here at Yarmouth Beach was opened in 1877 by the Yarmouth and Stalham Light Railway. It was just plain old Yarmouth to begin with, but it was then renamed Yarmouth Beach in 1883 to differentiate it from other stations in Yarmouth, namely Yarmouth Southtown and Yarmouth Vauxhall. The station was to serve tourists coming to Yarmouth for nice holidays and such, with the bracing east coast wind, and also it relied a lot on local travellers to keep the passenger numbers going through the station. I am going to hand over to narration Sarah now because she's going to be able to give you more information, and also I think the battery on the microphone is about to conk out, so my audio is about to become not so good. The station here had 3 platforms, as well as a goods yard, engine shed, turntable, cattle pens and signal box. In 1903, the Braden Viaduct was built, linking Yarmouth Beach to Yarmouth Southtown, giving a link between the Midlands and Lowestoft. This closed in 1953 when major repairs were anticipated, thus putting an end to through run into Lowestoft. Unfortunately, Yarmouth Beach lacked the direct routes that its rival Yarmouth Vauxhall had, and it became the first of the 3 Yarmouth stations to close in 1959. Following closure, the site was used as a coach station, with platforms, canopies and buildings being used as waiting shelters. These were demolished in 1986 and replaced with brick-built facilities. Now that we've had that station history, it's just time for me to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you've really enjoyed this video and this series of raising money for charity by walking a disused railway line. If you do want to donate, the link is in the description below, and some links to Epilepsy Action as well, because they've got some really good information on there. If you've enjoyed this, please do drop a like and a comment and consider subscribing to see more from me. I will see you all next time for another railway adventure. And also a big shout out to everybody who's donated so far. When I last checked the fundraiser page, it was on £1,259. That's amazing. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next time. Bye. And it's also goodbye from Brian. He has been with me the whole time, I promise. I'm now heading off to see if I can find somewhere to get a new pair of shoes and also something hot to eat because I am absolutely freezing.